Greetings from the most worshipful John G. Jones Grand Lodge, State of California, ancient, free, and accepted Masons. I'm yours truly, Past Grand Master Tony Hawkins, aka Tony Muhammad. Definitely, we're going to get into this video tonight. This is a historical sketch or a brief history of the Grand Lodge of England and how it goes into the Scottish Rite. In part one, I was telling you about how the degrees was formulated, and sold. Now I'm going to go into how, when it was here in the United States, what happened and how it played a part in the Civil War, and how Masonry, this is why they say during the Civil War, Masons buried their dead. They did. Whether you fought on the Confederate side or the Yankee side, if you was fighting against another Mason and he was killed, they would actually stop fighting and bury the dead, and then they'll go back to fighting. And I'm going to briefly get into that a little bit. Why did they do that? All right. Why did they do that? And it's a funny thing when you begin to really indulge in some of the old writings of Freemasonry, and you come across information, you be like, oh my goodness. This is why the title is part 2 to Freemasonry, the big lie. Simple as that. And some of the stuff you may know, and some of it you may not know. But I'll tell you what, after reading what I've read, I have a different perspective of Freemasonry. I enjoy it. I love it. I'm not going nowhere. It's just that it just gives me another perspective. And my next video is going to be on where did Masonry actually come from? Period. Where did it come from? And most of us already know, but I'm going to elaborate on it a little bit more. And it won't be from the Grand Lodge of England. I might as well tell you that now. So let me get into this real quick here. It says, the rites is now ascended throughout the Masonic world. So they're saying that they're saying that the 3 degrees of Enter Apprentice, Fellowcraft, and the Master Mason has began to ascend throughout what we call the Masonic world, going into various countries along with the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. These degrees was beginning to spread, and in the process of spreading, they was being sold. We're talking back in the 1700s, okay? So check this out. It says it consisted of 33 degrees, counting the old York Rite degrees. The old York Rite degrees are your Enter Apprentice, your Fellowcraft, and your Master Mason, which these 3 degrees are the basis of all Masonic rites. Okay, the Enter Apprentice, Fellowcraft, Master Mason is the basis for all Masonic rites. This 33rd rite is one of the latest amongst many attempts to construct a chain of degrees, meaning they wanted to tie the Enter Apprentice, Fellowcraft, and Master Mason to the 33rd and to bind them together, okay, by taxing them and governing the lodges of the world. So what they wanted to do with the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite in those 3 degrees, they wanted to tax and govern every lodge of the world under that system. And then it goes on to say, it says the convent, the Grand Lodge formed at Apple Tree Tavern in London in 1717 was such an attempt. So this is their attempt to put everything in place. Every lodge that come up under it, they wanted to tax it, okay? And they was going to charter it, all right? And they had the power over all the Masonic bodies of the world, all right? Now, it goes on to say, in 1717 was such an attempt. 4 decayed lodges. These lodges was decayed, okay, of working masters accustomed to the initiation of their apprentice, journeyman, and master. In the night of drinking, they was drinking that night. They was getting towed up, all right? They was doing a thing at the Apple Tree Tavern. That's what it is. It was a bar, all right? And then it says, okay, in a night of drinking, they met at the tavern in February. And on the 24th of June, they formed the first Grand Lodge and assumed power to charter, to tax, to govern every Mason of the world. And then it says, by declaring other Masons irregular. All lodges not chartered by themselves, as they could withdraw such a charter as was given by themselves, and destroy or cast out all other Masons that were not chartered by them. This is in their writing. You rewind and listen to what I just said. So it says such an attempt was to seize universal dominance. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to have universal dominance over the Freemasons. Okay. Then it goes on to say, it says the Grand Consistory of Minnesota. It says that on November the 12th, 1885, all Supreme Councils of the world had come on board. All of them was right on board with it. All right. And then it goes on to say, it says in Charleston, South Carolina, in 1801, were 13 Jews and 3 Protestants, Mitchell, Delatroy, and Provost, who had received it from France, falsely pretending to have founded upon the Constitution given by Frederick the Great. They lied about it. They lied about how they came upon these degrees. All right. And then it says that these degrees was in principle from France. Now, President Jefferson was first inaugurated after he had defeated John Adams in 1801. That was the same year that the council was organized. Follow me now. Then it says that Aaron Burr, B-U-R-R, who came to defeat Jefferson. So Jefferson defeated John Adams, and then Aaron Burr came. He almost defeated Jefferson. Now they was plotting to divide the infantry or the Union. They was plotting to divide the Union. Period. Listen to what I'm saying. They was plotting to divide the Union. All right. So they was raising troops in the Southwest. Now Bernard and Gaston or Gasset, Gassett, used their Royal Arch. Okay, they used the Royal Arch degree as they was going and traveling throughout the country. Right? They were doing. In other words, they were spying. All right. Then Jefferson afterwards brought them to court on treason. Right? Now, with Mitchell and Delatroy, the same year in 1801, they took They took those degrees that Ramsey formulated from France, right? In the Jesuit perfection, and added 8 more degrees. So those, how many Jews was it? Okay, those 13 Jews and 3 Protestants, that's what they did. That's exactly what they did. They added 8 more degrees, which made it 33. Now, after they did that, it says, by universal law, there should be one Supreme Council per country. One Supreme Council per country. That was a universal law at that time. But one Supreme Body, it says one Supreme Body per nation. All right. But the Charleston Supreme Council of the United States was the exception. Here in the United States is the exception. You have 2 Supreme Councils here. One is from the North and one is from the Southern. It is called the Mother Supreme Council, one being from the South and one being from the Northern, okay? And it says it created a northern jurisdiction located in New York, limited to the Southern and limited to the states north of Ohio, east of the Mississippi. This very division complicated things, okay? This division complicated things, but afterwards, okay, it was attempted by Jefferson Davis and Alexander by repealing the Missouri Compromise. If you know anything about history, you know about the Missouri Compromise, right? So after they divided this this supreme body, it compromised it brought into an effect that the division within the United States. And you can read this for yourself. and it's called the Missouri Compromise. And then it goes on to say that what they wanted to do, General Jackson, you know General Jackson was a Mason, right? And it says his whole cabinet was honorary Masons. All right? General Jackson was a Mason, and his whole cabinet were honorary Masons of Federal Lodge, okay, in the city of Washington, D.C. That was the name of the lodge. It was in Washington, D.C. Her whole cabinet were Masons. Man, this thing got deep. And then it goes on to say, we have seen from the history, given by its own authors, that the ancient accepted Scottish Rite Freemasons were not ancient, but modern. It was not accepted, but invented. Not Scottish, but French. You tell me. And so it was based upon a falsehood. Okay? It was based upon a falsehood. So once Ramsey set aside and did his thing, that whole thing was based upon a falsehood. Okay? Now check this out. The Council of South Carolina destroyed its own proceedings. For more than a half a century, from 1801 to 1860, there's no record existing of what they was doing, because all them boys was playing, man, they was playing chess, not checkers. Okay? I'm just saying there was a lot of things that was happening during the Civil War, and the Masons had their hands in it all. They did. From the selling of the degrees, making people Masons, they had their hands in it. And that's how they got down. All right? And then it goes, let's see what your boy Albert Pike says. Albert Pike, in his address in 1878, he says, I'm often asked why we do not publish our old transactions, to which I'm compelled to reply that we have none to publish. We have no records of transaction of Charleston from 1801 to 1860s. What minutes we have, we destroy. That's what Albert Pike said. What were they doing at that time? Now, we all know that Albert Pike was a traitor. He was a traitor. Albert Pike was a traitor. You know, we know that. History tells us that. But what he did was, the boy was slick now. He liked to drink. He liked to have his fun. He was slick. So he rewrote the Scottish Rite degrees for the Americans. He did. That Mars and Dogma, that's an Albert Pike book. You know, some of us call it the Bible of the Scottish Rite. He rewrote that thing. It's brilliantly rewritten. It has a lot of esoteric stuff in there. He went deep. And that's where my next video comes into play. Where did this thing called Freemason actually come from? Now, a lot of us already know, but some of us just don't want to accept the fact of where it came from. And we're going to get into that in my next video. Until then, peace and be well. I hope you got something from this tonight. And this information is available to the public. It ain't nothing in hiding. You just got to go get it. Somebody saying, where did I get this from? I got this out of the Scottish Rite volume #1. You can read it for yourself. Scottish Rite volume #1. If you are a Scottish Rite Mason, more than likely you have that in your library. You should. All right. There's 2 volumes, 1 and 2. Get #1 and you can read it for yourself. This information here starts on page. It starts on page 27 and it goes to page 35. All right. On volume on the first video I did, Freemason the Big Lie, that went from page 20 all the way over to page 26. All right. So, as always, keep your light on, stay out the bushes. I hope you got something out of this video. Until then, yours truly, I'm out.